uh, 8 p.m. Pacific time, and the format is 30 minutes on the given topic, and then the hour after that is for Q&A. So you don't have to stay past the 30 minutes if you don't want to talk about anything beyond the current topic. So just, for people who are new, there are many, many new subscribers recently. So hopefully you'll get excited and join us on the live streams here. And the comments that you see on the screen, I guess, over here, the comments you see on the screen are from YouTube. I'm not successful in getting Rumble comments on there, so we're live on both Rumble and YouTube. So anyway, just to get you up to date on the news here, which is kind of interesting. No, before I get into that, before I get into the subject matter, which is, Apple, robbing an Apple store, we'll get back into that in a second. But before I get into that, I had a nice chat with Brian Lunduke of Linux fame, a week or two ago now. And something that he said triggered me into really looking at my channel and seeing exactly what I'm doing here and what I'm trying to present to you. And I found he stated his observation of what I did, and he called me alt tech, and he called me a subversive nerd. And you've heard that. I mentioned it in the live stream a couple weeks ago. And the thing is that what he's saying is that I cater to a certain population, that I am not a Linus Tech Tips or a Marques Brownlee. That is not my audience. So many times I come in here and I try to justify myself to the normies, and especially in this topic of the Apple Store. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of Apple normie fanboys that are going to come in here, not listen to me, and say prove it, and all these comments about having to prove what I tell you. And you know what? I've just learned that I don't cater to that group, so I don't have to respond to that. I don't need to waste my time with trolls and people who don't like what I say or call me a paranoid whatever. And we're going to ignore that now, because now I realize that they're not my audience. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they say. So, so I need to just focus on the audience in question here, which is you guys, and basically the ones who are, especially the ones in the live stream. Last week's live stream was pretty big. That was like double the usual traffic. And not counting the people on Rumble. So yes, I appreciate it very much. And so we're not going to try to justify with too much explanation of the why or how or prove it. I don't need to care about that. We don't need to care about that. We just have to tell you what the facts are. So here's the issue at hand here. And I've often told you this, and it's nothing new for many of you, but for the newbies and people new here, they don't understand exactly what Apple does. And that has to be made clear, because in the United States, 59% of people are on iPhones. So the market reach of iPhones, and it could be even higher than that, because everyone who buys an iPhone gives their old iPhone to their kids. So yes, it's a big proportion of people. Yeah, I mean, it could be that kids are maybe 80% on iPhones just because their parents pass it down, and that's not even counted because it's a used phone, and we don't even realize how much people are on iPhones. And there's obviously a big community of people who love Apple. I was too. I mean, I had Apple One, the first iPhone in 2007, and my last iPhone was the iPhone 10. So yeah, I mean, even I had iPhones. So I don't begrudge you the fact that it was interesting tech, and I'm a tech guy, so I may not cater to the Linus Tech Tips type of tech, but I'm always interested in tech, and then only when I find something fishy that I stop and I said, hold off, let's rethink this. Well, as you know, this is something that I've tried to explain to you in the past, and I'm going to re-explain it so that new people can understand this, is that your iPhone has Find My Phone. Find My Phone, or Find My, because it could be an iPad, is incorrectly understood to mean that you turn on Find My Phone. This is your assumption about the technology, and I'm here to explain the technology to you because Apple blurs the distinction here, so most people don't understand this until you actually work with the device and you start to understand exactly what's going on. As I even work with Apple Store employees, and they don't even know that I'm watching them and seeing what the Apple Store employees are doing, and said, "Zuck, they've just proved it to me that the phone is in fact always on with Find My Phone. Always. You cannot stop Find My Phone. When you bring your product to the Apple Store for repair, for example, they're going to say, go to your iCloud and turn off Find My Phone." And you say, "Oh, good, I can turn off Find My Phone, and Find My Phone will no longer be working." But that's not the point. The point that they're trying to tell you is that on iCloud, which is not connected to the physical phone, how come they don't tell you to turn off Find My Phone on the phone? Why do they never say that? Turn off Find My Phone from the phone. They never say that because it has nothing to do with the phone. Find My Phone is always running, and it sends an identifier to Apple with your location. It sends this 24/7. And the only thing you're doing with Find My Phone turned on is associating yourself with the serial number of that fucking iPhone. Okay, so that's all you're doing, and they don't want to ruin that association because they can't. It's very hard to do that when they change phones. For example, you send your phone for repair, and they say, "Well, this phone is broken, so it's under warranty. We have to give you a new one." Your phone is associated with a different phone, and so you can't just associate it to a new one. Okay, so Find My Phone is very, very dangerous because this is really explaining to you. And this is all associated with AirTags and so on, that Find My Phone is example of 24/7 surveillance. It's always on, always. So this is the mistake that, the stupid looters are thinking about. And unfortunately, you believe the iPhone hype, you believe the Apple hype, and so you might as well go rob the Apple Store because, hey, nobody owns these phones yet. They're not associated with any Find My Phone. Nobody owns the phone, so they're safe. And then as they found out, obviously the serial numbers of those phones are recorded. All they have to do is find the serial number and say, "Oh, we're going to activate Find My Phone on this." And then once we do that, we can even disable the phone, even when the phone has no owner. Okay? And this is the thing that people say, "Oh, you can't," this is the part that's completely misunderstood. You can't turn off or disable a phone when there's no owner. You're wrong. They just did it on, again, another proof of this Find My Phone business, because that's the feature you're supposed to have. If you have Find My Phone active on your account, supposedly, all you have to do is go to your account and then your iCloud account and disable the phone. And because that serial number is associated with you, then you have a right to disable the phone. The phone will be disabled. And only the Apple Store can undo the disable. Okay? So the looters steal the fucking phones. Apple takes ownership of the serial numbers and says, "We're gonna disable this." and as well as activate the location tracking. Now, the reason this is kind of, a big mystery is because Apple has not, or maybe it's not Apple, maybe it's the government here in California. The Apple Store, I believe, was it at the? I'm trying to remember if it, which location in Los Angeles was hit by a mob looters. I think it was at the place called The Grove, and I'm trying to remember if it was that Apple Store or did it hit another store in there. I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. I guess one of the Apple stores here in Los Angeles were hit, and they stole a bunch of iPhones. And I was like laughing to myself. So what are you going to do with those iPhones? What are you going to do with those iPads, you stupid Zucks? I mean, you're robbing the biggest surveillance company in the world. There's no one better at surveilling the device at the device level. There's no one better at surveilling the device level than sucking Apple. I mean, that's the best one. I mean, if there's an AirTag nearby, they can find your zucking location in inches. Not 6 feet. If there's an AirTag in inches. And people are saying, "Oh no, this guy is a conspiracy theorist." Okay, you call me that. I won't waste time. I won't waste my time with you because it's going to be useless. But you go watch the. I posted the video on my X account on X. Showing the phone. People were like, dumping the stolen iPhones and iPads because obviously they got disabled by Find My Phone. And obviously their location was also tagged, and also they were geolocated and they were geofenced. Okay, so with their other phones, it would be pretty easy to say, okay, not only were they next to the zucking iPhones, but their other phones, which could also be iPhones. This is America here. In America, 59% have iPhones. So the bunch of those looters had iPhones already, and they're walking into the they're driving around in their cars and looting stores, and you get your zucking iPhone in your pocket. I mean, that's the stupidity of this world. You kind of have to laugh. I don't teach people to be evil, but if they watch this channel, they might learn a few things, and maybe they'll learn not to commit certain crimes because it won't work. And this is an example of them, as you know, a bunch of them were already arrested. So a whole bunch of them were already arrested. Obviously, there's facial zucking recognition. I mean, now this is the problem. They needed to have done this a long time ago. So you understand the threat of the phone. This is not about the looters. Some of you are saying, "Oh, good, the looters got caught," and you're like, "Good, enforce law enforcement and all that." But that's not really what I wanted to show you, because people ask me and say, "You claim, Mr. Braxman, you claim that." It's a big thing with this tracking of the phones. Yet, how can criminals escape and they never get caught? And there was so much looting in California here in Santa Monica. I saw it, and they burned buildings in Santa Monica. And like the protest was actually several miles away, but the looters were in 3rd Street. And you can see the damage to 3rd Street. I was there after. I didn't go during, because it was dangerous. I went after, and you can see the looters on TV, and no one made any attempt to identify these people, even though they were right on TV. You could do facial recognition on TV, even without the device, even without worrying about the phones. And this is the sucking problem, is that if the government doesn't, it's like the government is selective. The government is selective. They'll say, okay, I guess we're not going to enforce this. So we're going to allow this kind of evil to go on. So now, what do you know in California? California is known for, everyone is going to stores and taking a whole rack of clothes and just basically stealing everything from stores, and they think they're not going to get caught. And yes, because in California, the government here decided, this kind of criminal behavior is okay. And again, I don't care about that part. That's somebody else's business. My part is saying these people don't realize the dangers of the phones, because here in California, they've gotten away with it. So they actually think phones are okay. They're safe. In the meantime, somebody can actually go back and do geofencing and all that, and identify all these people who are looting and all that. Even as far as several years ago, that is all in the Google Sensor Vault, not counting what Apple's Sensor Vault is. I don't know what they call it, but Google calls theirs the Google Sensor Vault. So if you're on an Android, your information is in a Google Sensor Vault. And even if you're on an iPhone, there will be information on location in the Google Sensor Vault. If you're on an iPhone, then of course Apple will have your exact location because of Find My. Okay? So the point is, and what frustrates me about the selective surveillance, as Great Gold describes what I just said, is selective surveillance means the average normie is not aware of the reality, and they're free to call me names and say I'm a conspiracy theorist and all this is, what I say is not true. And I prove to you time and time again that what I say is true, because I research this, or I look at the probability of a certain thing happening, and the probability is so high that almost everything I say is proven to be truthful. And some have not yet been proven because you haven't caught an instance of it. However, understanding the tech, I know that here's the reality. If the tech exists to do something, especially something evil, they will use it. So I know the technology in an iPhone. I know this constant tracking is going on. And somebody said in my last video how my video 2 weeks ago on the end-to-end encryption, and somebody actually, again, another zucking normie that I told you I don't need to care about what they say. I just delete their comments because waste of time. But somebody said, Apple does not do client-side scanning. You stupid zuck. I don't need to prove the technology to you, but I bet whoever's saying that has no zucking knowledge anyway. Okay? They don't know anything. So, so basically somebody's saying iPhone does not have client-side scanning is saying that from no technical knowledge whatsoever, but basing it on what Apple says. Okay, I'll tell you what Apple says. Apple says they are not performing CSAM scanning. Currently, they put it on hold. Okay? They're not performing CSAM scanning. So if somebody tells me, Apple claims they're not doing CSAM scanning, and I'm going to say, well, that's true. However, the technology for client-side scanning is obviously there. It's been there because that's how they were going to implement client-side scanning. So if client-side scanning isn't being used, it isn't because the technology isn't there. It's just because they haven't actively used it. So everyone knows, if you watched Louis Rossman's channel, that they actually that some hackers have spotted the activity with the file manager that actually scans the files on I believe they did this on a Mac, and there's the scanning is already occurring now, a scanning of the images. And they're saying, well, there's an active scanner right now, and you can see it because you can see the process running in the background because Apple's Mac OS is running BSD fork. And so you can see some of the processes. There's some ways to see what's going on because it's kind of like Linux. And so they can see, there's a background process with the names that suggest there's doing scanning of images. So this is it's not a mystery that the tech is there. I mean, it's in the API. In fact, when they start talking about neural engine and vision, what is it, computer vision, all of these are features that other apps can use, and they're going to be in the API for people to access. So in theory, then a Signal could say, we're going to use the client-side scanning, we're going to utilize that same neural engine and perform client-side scanning. I mean, they could do it if the API was open. I haven't looked at the API for Apple lately if they opened it, but presumably they could. So the point is that whatever you think, you're a big Apple fan and you think that client-side scanning is in there. Find My Phone is not tracking your location 24/7 because Apple said they're not. Yeah, let me just tell you some of the words they use. Because the Find My Phone is tracking an identifier of the phone. Whatever the serial number of the phone is what's being broadcast in Find My. It's not your ID that's being broadcast, it's the serial number. So every iPhone is broadcasting whatever the identifier. I'm just referring to it as a serial number because I don't know what it is. But it's identifying a number on the phone. Okay? Maybe it's a number on the secure enclave. The security part of the phone that has a unique identifier. Maybe it's in there. I don't know where it is, but it's sending an identifier. So when Apple says we're not tracking you because 24/7 we're not tracking you, we're tracking the identifier, but they don't have to say that. Oh, we're not tracking you as the Apple ID, we're tracking the identifier. Of course, they can match the Apple ID to the identifier, but that's not the point. They can publicly say things like, we don't do content scanning of CSAM. Yeah, because they didn't activate it, but it's there. Meaning, if a 3-letter agency says, you need to do a scan right now to look for certain kinds of individuals we want to identify as right-wing extremists, you're going to find them for us. And Apple has to comply because of the Zucking Patriot Act. When you provide a tool set, they have opened themselves up to the Patriot Act, and they can't discuss that. Can't discuss it. They can't go around and say, the government is asking us to supply this information because of the Patriot Act. They can't say that. That's part of the Patriot Act. You gotta not say a word. Okay? So now they don't say a word, and then the fanboys are happy, and Apple is happy because they don't have to explain it to you. Because if it's a Patriot Act, they have no duty to explain anything because by law, they're not supposed to say it. So, but they put the tools in there, therefore, you're done. The mere fact that the tools are there, we don't ever need to ever hear about CSAM again, because the whole point of the CSAM was just to put the tools in there. The tools are not there. We're done. Okay? So, yeah, so that's... now, I'm going to tell you something. It's going to be in my next video, but it's going to be interesting. Do you know there's client-side scanning in just about every computer? Now? Maybe not Linux computers, but do you know there's client-side scanning? And this is funny because you won't actually realize this until you think about it clearly. But the client-side scanner in every computer is the antivirus. What do you think an antivirus is? What do you think an antivirus is? It's a scanner. What do you think this antivirus scans? It scans content. It scans for content. What do you think happens when the content is found? It reports it to the antivirus maker. Sometimes the files are even sent to the antivirus maker. An example of this is Kaspersky. So Kaspersky finds something, suspicious, and since the Kaspersky doesn't have a copy of that file, then they get a copy of the file, and some of them get malware. Copy of the file, and they can see then if it's new malware, and they can go examine it. The point is, how do you think an antivirus works? It works just like any normal content scanner. Okay, so if somebody said, okay, Microsoft, you have to implement content scanning. Well, how hard is that? They just have to turn on the antivirus, give the antivirus instructions to scan not just for malware, but for whatever specific content is desired. You're already running the antivirus. The antivirus is already scanning every single file. It's already doing that. It can already scan your Word documents, all of your photos. It can already do that. This is why you talk to me, guys, because I am the tech guy. I understand this tech. I understand this tech. How many of you thought about this? How many of you thought about this? That's why you come to me, because I'll tell you what the reality is. A content scanner, client side, already exists. All you have to do is just tweak it. So the camera is it's off center because I pushed the content. So I guess I gotta move over here to keep it from keep the focus from working. Anyway, that's very interesting. How if you're not tech aware, you're not understanding what content side scanning is, and Apple's version is that the AI is doing the scanning, and who cares if it's AI or not? The antivirus doesn't need AI; it just needs instructions. What the AI does, the Apple AI, when it does content scanning, it's able to scan images and use AI to determine the content. Now that requires some CPU time, because you have to not just look at the picture, but run it through AI to see what the picture is showing. That's the actual issue with CSAM, because the CSAM has to be examined for that. But forget about CSAM for a moment. If you just want to scan for general content, like look at your documents and see if you said anything, look at your email and see what you said in various things on your device to bypass end-to-end encryption. Goodness, you don't need anything. The antivirus can be used to scan the screen, to scan the content, scan the files, scan memory. Antivirus already works in memory. Antivirus already handles that in memory. So, isn't that interesting? So, there, my friends, some new little detail for you that only the ones in the live stream will actually realize this new little fact. So, anyway, we're going to pause for a station break, sponsor break, and then we'll continue on and go through your questions, and I'll start reading your comments. So my sponsor today, and my only sponsor, is by choice, is Linode. Now Linode is a cloud service provider, which means if you need a server, let's say you need a web server, you need a business server, you want a website, you want WordPress, you want to run some communication program just for your company like Jitsi, XMPP, or something that you can use for your business, and you need it on the server side, you want an online store. There's so many things you might want to do, and there's actually so many open source apps that you can install over a server, especially Linux server, and you could do that in a cloud service provider like Linode. Now, there are many cloud service providers, so I'm gonna make sure you understand why you can choose Linode. And some of these cloud service providers include Amazon AWS, which is the most popular one, probably the most known one. And you have other ones like GoDaddy and many little ones. And there's other ones like Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, to name ones that enterprises use. And all of these are options. But one of the things that you will find if you use any one of these companies is that, and I use them all, and I've used many other small ones, like smaller players, and you will find that you're going to spend a lot more money on the cloud server, a lot more money. So I found that just in comparison, I don't know if my Linode cost is maybe 4 times cheaper than AWS. I mean, it's so significant. I don't even know. Just to give you an example, my bill from Amazon and my bill from Linode are equal. I pay the same amount to Linode and AWS, but I only have extremely few servers on AWS. I have a ton of them on Linode. So the ratio is like actually 10 to 1. Yet I'm only paying a fraction on Linode for the 10 times the number. But that's because I'm using different services. But so I'm just averaging it out that I save more money on Linode. And it's just because of the way they price it. They price it to include bandwidth, for example, whereas Amazon will trick you and they'll say, oh yeah, you pay for a server, and then, oh, by the way, there's an extra charge for bandwidth. So anyway, if you're looking for something for your business, consider Linode. And if you use Linode with a code Rob Raxman, so you go to linode.com, you sign up, this way they will give you $100 credit, which you can use for a period of 2 months. And if you're a student, for example, you can learn a lot from testing servers and all that for free, really, because you can get a Linux server up and running for $5 a month, especially for testing. That's perfectly fine. And if it's not in production, or it's a small website, $5 a month is sufficient. So consider Linode. Tech support's amazing, so don't forget them. Okay. So I hope you learned a lot from that first half hour, because I talked about a lot of stuff in there that was fairly interesting. Some of the information I said there was and it's very true. Everything I said is absolutely true. And yeah, you'll get the naysayers who call me names and whatever. I get attacked all the time, and we don't need to worry about that, because it doesn't concern us. My goal is to cater to the crowd that understands that I'm a subversive nerd, as Brian Lundu calls me. And I am not Linus Tech Tips, who is in standard tech. I'm what Brian Lundu calls me alt tech. So I'm not the normal tech guy. I'm alt tech. So although I delve into technology, I buy a lot of tech products all the time. Some I use and then I test, and then if I find that they're dangerous, then I stop using them. But it doesn't mean I hide from tech. I mean, I have every one of those computers. I have Macs, I have PCs, I have PCs running Linux, I have Raspberry Pis and NUCs any number of devices, and I use every kind of camera, and I even have a Tesla. So I can't learn the technology unless I start using them. So I do use them, and from my use of it, if I find a problem, I tell you, and then I tell you my concerns. So if I'm not talking about a tech product much, at least in the negative, then assume I haven't found anything that strikes me as particularly blatant. Some are, there are some features that I find in tech that are potentially dangerous, but not operationally dangerous yet. I just told you I have a Tesla, and Teslas have a camera, and the camera is always on. Now it's not the reason I don't criticize it for being a spy is because the camera is processed locally by the local Ryzen chip, depending on the model you have. And so the local AI processes the image to see if you're paying attention. So, for example, if your eyes are wavering and are not looking at the road, then the AI detects that and says, pay attention. Is my interview with Brian Lunduk available? Yeah, it's on Brian Lunduk's channel. I don't know if he posted it on YouTube yet. Not sure, but it's on his locals. It's on his locals. I think he posted it on X. Now that I think about it, it's on X. So it's somewhere. I'm not sure if he posted it on YouTube. So anyway, what was I talking? I got interrupted. And I forgot my point here. Let me back up my comments here. Oh, the Tesla. I was talking about the Teslas, and that's an example of a tech that bothers me. And I posted on X. Elon, of course, ignores me when I say that, but I said, yeah, we need to worry about the privacy issues potentially with Tesla, and we need to put some precautions there. But you see, Tesla itself does not really work in the data collection of your activities. It doesn't do that, and the reason is even the Wi-Fi on the car is optional. You don't even have to have it. You turn it off. So then you have to connect the Wi-Fi at home. So you buy the premium service to have LTE, and you can choose not to have the LTE, in which case your phone does not have that live connection. And so it's an option. So, and that just goes to show that that it's not in the collection business. It's in fact, if you look at the intent of Tesla, as Elon Musk says it, he said that the Tesla was intended to run even without any kind of input from anyone. Including maps. It's supposed to be able to just do vision AI and then analyze. If you put it in the middle of the desert, it should know how to operate just by looking at the environment and observing it. So that's the design of the AI. So you can see from the AI that the AI is supposed to be independently done at the car itself. And this is the reason why I don't particularly concern myself with it, because I haven't had proof yet that or even a hint that somehow some mass collection of data is happening at Tesla. This is versus some of the other self-driving constructs like Waymo that actually is a live connection to Google. Live. In fact, it's the only way it works. It has to have a live connection with Google, and Google then tracks. If it sees an obstacle on the road, all the obstacles will be recorded and sent to every car live. Okay, that's not how the Tesla operates. The Tesla operates by local AI, local analysis, and so if it observes one, it reacts to it at that moment. It's not based on somebody communicating it centrally and then sending it out to every car that uses, in the case of Waymo, the Google system. So yeah. So anyway, my point is that when I take the technology, I say, okay, is there any sign that I'm not afraid of technology? Obviously I use everything I can use, and then test it. Even iPhones. I told you I had iPhones, and when I realized that the danger became so extreme. Find My Phone was always there, was always a danger, but now, with the client-side scanning, it's gone to the extreme level. So the only way I would use a device, and I do have an iPad, okay, but I don't put any content in it. In fact, I only use it for music. So they can do content scanning all they want. It doesn't have any data. I don't use it. I don't do social media on it. I don't do anything on it. It's just I use it to run an app for music called iReal Pro, which I need for jazz, and it's just basically to display the music in a gig. And it doesn't have any. It does. It doesn't have any LTE or anything. And when it leaves my house, it doesn't even have Wi-Fi. So this is an example of how you can defeat the technology, even though the technology may be Apple, that you can defeat it depending on what your purpose is. And that's called, some will call it segregation of activities or partitioning. It's like, what data are you actually putting into the device? So it's not a global rule that you can't use anything. You basically have to say, well, what is the risk in each device? What is the risk in each device? So you analyze the device and you say, okay, what is it capturing for me? Location, this, that. So you have to say, is that important, not important in this case? If it's important in some cases, maybe you ought to turn it off. The problem with an iPhone is you can't turn it off. Okay, so that's a problem with an iPhone, is that you can't turn location off. So some of you may not realize this, and this is another feature of the iPhone that is very unique. Is that you said, okay, I'm going to have a secret meeting because I'm meeting with a whistleblower, and I have my iPhone with me, and I want to be safe, so I'm going to turn off the iPhone. Well, as you know, that doesn't work. You turn off the iPhone and the iPhone turns to the Zucking AirTag. So now you think you're not being tracked, but it's tracking you 24/7 on or off. Well, what kind of device is that? How could you be in agreement with a device that you can't even disable the tracking by turning it off? So if it's a phone, you can see the danger in that it's a phone. It tracks your location at all times. So, my iPad stays at home, so what are they going to track? There's no change. Nothing changes in it because it stays put next to the Zucking piano. Okay, so I said, okay, from a tech point of view, there's not much risk there. This is not moving. But if it's a phone, it's moving around, it's in your pocket, and then you say, I'm going to be safe. I'm going to go do some looting. I'm going to do looting with the iPhone in my pocket. I'm going to turn I'm so smart. I'm such a genius. I'm going to turn my iPhone off. I'm going to do looting with my iPhone off, and they're not going to fucking catch me. Ha, ha, ha. Okay. Now you Think about how hilarious that is. Okay, think about that. So somebody's like, ha ha ha! I turned my iPhone off, and I'm gonna do looting. I'm gonna go, cause a problem, and you know, I wonder how many people at the January 6th riot. I wonder if them had an iPhone and turned it off, and then found out that they could be tracked anyway with the phone off. I just wonder. So that's why. Oops, sorry. That's why from a technology point of view, the danger of an iPhone exceeds the danger of any other device. So if you're going to use an iPad, okay, just use it in a limited way. If you're going to use a phone, which is on you at all times, be extremely aware of that. And not sure how you can, use an iPhone safely. I don't really know how you can use it safely, which is why I can't possibly carry one. Now, I have an iPhone 10, as I said. It's in a Faraday bag. It's the only device that really needs a Faraday bag. Can you imagine buying an iPhone and having to worry about the only device you have to worry about putting in a Faraday bag? It's kind of crazy, and you really have to, because if you don't put it in a Faraday bag, it's going to be an AirTag. So yeah, so I'm the conspiracy theorist apparently. Apparently, I'm the conspiracy theorist. By the way, somebody mentioned the hated one, and said something about comparing me to the hated one. The hated one has been around longer than I have. In fact, I was watching the hated one long before I was even on YouTube. So, and somebody said that the hated one said I was too soft. Too soft on privacy. So, yeah, did he say that somewhere? Where did he say that? Did he say it on Reddit? Probably Reddit, because he hangs out on Reddit. I watched the hated one long ago, so it's a little bit different because he doesn't really go into technical proof that I go through, and maybe he's right. Maybe I shouldn't care, which is why. I don't need to go into so much detail. I just tell you what the detail is, and you go hopefully understand what I said, that it's based on a very deep analysis. The hated one never gets to prove anything, and nobody ever cites him for it. So you didn't prove that the three-letter agencies are spying. You didn't prove it. I need to kind of follow his lead. Why do I have to prove it? It's just telling you what the facts are. If you want to believe in some alternate fact, then you belong to the normie group. That's okay with me. You don't have to be in my group. Yeah, you don't have to be in this group. If you want to be in the normie group, that's fine. I can't appease everyone. There's a community of people that care about privacy, and there's the ones that give you lip service about privacy, and there are people who do not care, which is the majority. So the majority don't care. There's a bunch of people in cybersecurity that think they're into privacy. They're not really. They're into cybersecurity, which is not really privacy. And one of the reasons that it's so different is because cybersecurity itself, by nature, is a corporate need. Most of the need for cybersecurity specifically is corporate. Okay, so the needs of a corporation are not the same as your needs. For example, I'll give you an example. Antivirus. As you know, I say to you that you shouldn't be using an antivirus. And why do I say, don't use an antivirus? It's because it actually introduces more dangers, because it's an antivirus as I mentioned earlier, is actually a content scanner, as for one thing. It can also introduce hacks because you can beat the logic of a antivirus anyway, and you can break in and actually introduce uh, a vector for attack inside through the antivirus. And this was known to three-letter agencies, and in fact was discussed in Vault 7, the WikiLeaks Vault 7 that released information of what the three-letter agencies do. So, yes, I read Vault 7, so I know exactly that antivirus is not good. Was it, the Vault 7 proved that. Right? So anyway, I don't subscribe to using an antivirus for that reason. I forgot why I said that. I forgot. I forgot why I even talked about the. Let me look back in the comments and maybe I get reminded what I was talking about. That maybe talk about the antivirus. It was based on somebody's comment. No, it was something else. So anyway, I was talking about cybersecurity being a corporate need, and the reason is that a corporation needs to spy on employees, for example. The corporation needs to know if their information is secure, meaning, are you passing corporate secrets to the outside? They need to know that. Are you posting things in social media about the company? They need to know that. Okay? That's cybersecurity. That's cybersecurity. That has nothing to do with privacy. Privacy is a personal thing. Privacy is a personal thing. What you post in social media for yourself should not be the business of the corporation. But if you do it on a corporate network, cybersecurity people will put systems in there to spy on you. Okay? So just you understand that. That is not my focus. Cybersecurity people will do that. So that's why people in cybersecurity and I are not seeing eye to eye, because I'm basically a populist. I'm working with a very specific desire to be left alone. That's really the point of what I do. I just want to be left alone. I don't want any mass surveillance. I don't want a big tech scanning. I don't want any big tech thing influencing, influencing votes, influencing opinion, changing what's important in society. I want it to be organic. I want it to be natural. I want, if there's a discussion of a topic, it should be naturally what people discuss, and not based on manipulation, because you can manipulate, for example, social media. You can make something viral if you're a social media site. You can make anything viral. So if they desire a certain hashtag to be viral, they can do that. You can't. So you can just see, just from that alone, just think about it. If the platform can make something viral and make something else disappear or shadow ban, that's pretty powerful. And that's all I want. That's all I want to eliminate. I want that part of tech to disappear. I don't want that. But I can't convince, the majority, because they love their Facebook and they love their Instagram and they love to put their lives out there. Okay, fine. There's always going to be that group, what I call the normie group. So there's always going to be the normies, and then the rest of us need to protect ourselves. So we need to protect ourselves as a group of, we're the subversive tech group. subversive tech. That's what we are. We are subversive tech users. We don't follow the mainstream. The mainstream is go use social media, go use Google for everything, go use your Apple devices without question. This is the group that questions. And hopefully the group that questions is more balanced, have more balanced opinions, and and on average, and are more aware of what the real issues are. I mean, obviously everyone has a different opinion, but if you're not tainted by extremes of manipulated information, then you would be more balanced. And I mention as an example the perception that vaccination, for example, the perception that vaccination is a political thing, and that those on the left will favor vaccination and those on the right are anti-vax. That's what the press wants you to believe, right? So I'll tell you right now, that's false. There's many people here right now that are anti-vax and they're on the left, and pro-vax and they're on the right. Okay? So, because everyone is aware of what issues they want to think about, and they're not trying to get themselves influenced by others. Maybe. I hope. My friend asked if he can delete all of his iPhone location data. Hell no, of course not. How do you fucking delete that? Whoever mentioned about the gyro sensor is still being able to track your movement and location even in a Faraday bed, that's a scary thought. That's actually there's actually, I did a video on that. And the gyro sensor is not dependent on internet. So although that is true that the gyro sensor could, in theory, record any kind of movement, even while in a Faraday bag, unless you hack a phone, the gyro sensor permission for getting a continuous collection of data in the background is limited by permission. So by default, the gyro sensor data cannot be collected continuously. So that's the default permission. So that's why when you use the fitness app, it's running only while the fitness app is running, and then when you turn off the fitness app, then it stops collecting. If the gyro sensor has disconnected data, then it doesn't get an exact position. It can only get short-term positions. That's the theory. So if the gyro is working inside a bag, if it's in a bag, yes, you can just batch the data, and then you take it out of the bag. It could, in theory, send that. But the reality is that making such an app is no longer possible. It used to be possible. If you have an older Android, for example, you could do it. On a newer version, that was actually eliminated in, trying to remember if it was Android 10, maybe? Don't know when it was done on iPhone, but I believe Android 10, where they actually then limited the permission for the gyro sensor. So if it can't work in the background and you're not seeing it right now, then the app can't collect the data. Okay? So just so you know that. So even if your gyro sensor, itself, the device, the actual electronic device, can sense the data, if not, there's no app that can capture it, then obviously it can't spy on you. So at the moment, you have to hack the phone's ability to run the gyro sensor in the background. So not sure there's any evidence that that's been done yet. It can be done though, possibly. So, but unless it has occurred, I'm not going to tell you. I want to make sure that you understand where I come from. I mean, I don't have to have actual proof that it actually happens. I just have to have high probability. And that's the way spy agencies work, just so you understand. And I kind of work like that with my analysis. If governments can use probability as a basis to make decisions about going to war, doing certain actions, and they said the WMD was in Iraq, and we're gonna invade Iraq because it's a high probability there's WMD, although they don't have actual proof. So the government used the high probability as an excuse. Now, that's really the gold standard when it comes to intelligence operations is you do probability based, and probably WMD one was not based on probability. It's probably based on wishful thinking. That's probably more wishful thinking. But the way I operate is on the basis just like a spy agency. I'm not here to do to test one device at a time. That is not important for what I need to do. I just have to say it's a higher probability that I will be done. Well, the fact is that I got distracted by a comment, and so if there's a high probability. And this is the basis for my probability questioning here. You have a device, like say a gyro sensor. The gyro sensor can in fact track constant location and even position in space at all times. Android and Apple put control to make sure the data doesn't get collected in the background. But obviously there's a device driver in there, and you don't know what the OS does. So although we know what Android does, we don't know what Apple does. Is it possible for Apple to collect gyro sensor data 24/7? It is possible because they wrote the operating system. We don't know. Okay, whereas on Android, we know that's not possible because Android open source. It's so we can see the source code, and we can see if they do something like that or use that kind of data. So probability wise, and I estimate the probability of doing that, and or the usefulness of it, and that's what I make a prediction about what they're going to use. For example, client-side scanning is based on very specific modules, like the AI for analyzing images, but the actual content-side scanning itself is, as I told you, exists already in an antivirus. So if I'm just scanning text content, I don't need the AI. The AI is to scan images. But if I'm scanning text content, then all I have to do is make a little tweak in the antivirus, and I'm done. Have I ever been subpoenaed and gag ordered in a government thing? No, never. I've been in many legal things. I've been in many dispositions and court cases. Okay, in my life. So you might say I'm experienced with that. And I'm talking about high level battles and corporate legal stuff. I'm very used to that. No fun, but But no, I've not been. I have no I can tell you up front right now, I've had no contact with any agency that's ever asked me to do anything, and give you data or take data from Braxme or do anything like that. That's never happened. Okay, so you know that the rule is if you have by Patriot Act, if I am asked to do something, I can't tell you. In which case, I'll say I can't tell you. But since I'm telling you right now, there's nothing legally that prevents me from telling you this. That I'm telling you that no, I have never been asked to supply any kind of information about anyone on any platform. I'm too small. I'm so too insignificant. So no, nobody's ever asked me, and as you know, even Braxme doesn't really contain any data anyway. That's the whole point. The responsibility for collecting data disappears when you do not collect the data. For example, the Braxme does not collect IP addresses. Neil must be a lawyer. Neil must be a lawyer. Okay, I can sense a lawyer when I see that kind of answer. No, I have not looked into any other kind of phone model. No, I have not. So yes, at no point in and Braxby, by the way, it's existed since 2014, 13, late 13. So it's 10 years now that Braxby's been running, and so no, it has. I've never been asked anything, and I've actually changed the purpose of Braxby a little bit because it was never. People are like looking at it as some sort of encrypted messaging system, which was not the real, main intent. It was meant to be a social platform that does not collect identity information. So, because if you understand the problem, if you don't have an identity, the data doesn't matter, and one of the identity items that could be collected is the IP address. And Braxme specifically, and I showed it live, that we actually disable the collection of IP addresses in the log. So if you look at our servers, the IP address is eliminated from the log. So there is no IP address in the log or in the database. Now there's exceptions to that. I'm going to tell you right now, there's an exception to that. If you're a troll, the system will detect an attack. And if it detects an attack, it will start collecting IP addresses. Okay, so I'm just being honest with you. It's in the source code. It's open source, so you can look at it. So if the system is under attack, we have a famous troll from the UK, some kid from the UK is always attacking. So yes, if someone is attacking, then yeah, we're not going to sit idly and do that. But for the average person using it normally, there is no trace. Okay, so I mean there are exceptions. There are exceptions. I mean you can't be stupid. When you're being attacked, you turn into privacy into cybersecurity, and so that's what we do. So we switch mode and say, "Oh, you're attacking." You're an example of an attack is somebody connecting to the setting up 10,000 accounts, which is a typical cybersecurity attack because it's part of ZAP. There's an attack test that you can do, and the attack will actually set up 10,000 accounts. So it sets up 10,000 accounts, and if you don't stop it, of course, it's gonna kill your server to make 10,000 users all nonstop. So you can be stupid and say, "Oh, I'm into privacy. I'm not gonna collect that information." But obviously, no. I mean, we will detect that. Which is why we don't allow you to set up more than 3 accounts. After which we say, you're attacking us. So if you set up more than 3 accounts, we know you're attacking, and then we start tracking everything you're doing. So yes, so just common sense. When you delete an IP address, do you fully secure wipe of that data from the drive or just delete? No, life and death, we don't capture it. It's stripped out before it's saved into the log. It's part of the scripting in Linux. We script it so that the Apache 2 server does not even write it. You can specify in the script. Okay, so on Braxme, the IP address is not recorded in the log, not recorded in the database, not recorded in the what do you call it? The user data, the user data reported by the browser. So it's not recorded in any of those. So there's actually, it's not written down. And by the way, even when we track an IP address, we actually just track the hash. So we don't actually store the IP address, we store the hash to protect the IP address. Now, of course, you can backwardly compute. If you know a little bit of math, you can, there's only so many digits of an IP address, so it's possible to reverse engineer it, but we don't make it easy. By IPs, we're talking about fingerprint here because trolls will use VPN, I guess. Well, both. Some attacks require a fixed IP address. For example, if you're using a VPN and you're setting up 10,000 accounts, you can't switch IP address 10,000 times. So you're going to use the same IP address setting up 10,000 accounts. So that account, even if it's on a VPN, will be blocked. Does using the Brax VPN offer any help at all with price? Yes, of course it does, Derek. But understand what Bytes VPN, it's not Brax VPN, it's Bytes VPN. What Bytes VPN does is block the IP address from being recorded by Apple. Apple, by the way, that uses iCloud Private Relay. So they have kind of an in to what you're doing. If you use your own VPN service, then you bypass Apple. Okay, so yeah, so there is value doing that on an iPhone, obviously. Why give Apple the extra information? They're already tracking your location. Why give them an IP address? So yes, of course, that's even if they're doing iCloud Private Relay, Apple obviously has the IP address, your original IP address, because they run the relay. They know the source and destination at all times. So if you want to deprive them that collected data, then you can use a VPN. Now, the best solution is, of course, not use an iPhone. So anyway, I mean, I've talked about a lot of stuff today. I mean, if you just sit and listen to everything I've talked about, you would have learned a lot from this live stream. And just to show you the breadth of information that the average person who's interested in being a subversive nerd doesn't know. Many of you don't know a lot of stuff I said. So yeah. So Sharon Hobbs, this is not. Yes, exactly. We don't want to be stupid in technology. By the way, being a subversive tech nerd, as as I call all of us, including every one of you in this chat, doesn't mean you have to be a techie in the sense of being a, some technology expert. You just have to be aware. I am not catering to a crowd of people who need to be technically advanced. That's not the point. We just want technically aware. Somebody aware, so you can say, oh, okay, that's the right choice, that's a wrong choice. So the wrong choice is to use certain devices unless you have partitioned your activities in such a way that doesn't matter so much. Using an iPhone is pretty hard to partition. So in general, I can't think of any positive way I can encourage you to use an iPhone, even though 59% of you apparently do in the U.S. So am I going to convince those 59% to change? I mean, in this group alone, I'm going to bet that half of you use an iPhone, and even as I'm talking about this. So yeah, so just be aware of what you're faced with here. And some of you are not willing to make the technological change because you're going to say, well, my family all uses iPhones. It's hard to just shift gears. So, yeah, so if you have to be aware, and then at some point you make a decision that says, okay, it's time to do it. One of you actually contacted me and said, I got to return the Pixel 6a that I bought from you because my family uses WhatsApp, and I can't go de-Google. Well, MV, I'll talk about that, MV. So anyway, you have to understand that if I have some sort of alternative to using a device, if there's some way to blunt the danger of a device, I'll tell you. Unfortunately, I don't have an iPhone is so bad that I can't even turn it off. As you turn it off, it's still tracking you. I don't know what to say. So if you're going to have an iPhone, then I'm going to give you a little tip. Sometimes if you're going to do looting, you should leave that iPhone at home. If you're going to be a looter, or if you're going to go to some demonstration, don't bring that iPhone. Bring a de-Google phone. Maybe you don't bring a de-Google phone or everything. Maybe you use an iPhone for normal life, and then if you're going to do something special, you dispose of the iPhone and use the de-Google phone only in those exceptions. Okay, that's a choice. You can't do that. Okay, so MV mentioned the operating system that shall not be named. We refer to as GOS. Okay. Because apparently the leader, who's truly a psycho, is no longer in charge. Okay, and if you don't follow that, go listen to Louis Rossman and see what his experience is. He got the guy a grant, for that OS, and the guy's crazy. It's truly a loony bin. And the whole community is. So when somebody asks me, why don't I promote this OS? Because they claim to be so great. Because it's a bunch of loony bins who are actually, many of them actually are into cybersecurity, not even privacy. And they put features on the phone that they claim is so superior to the other ones. And when you actually analyze what it is, and you say, we have our own OS. We should understand how significant those features are. If they're significant, we'll copy them and move into our OS. And then we don't. Why do we not copy? Because it's open source. We can copy whatever they put in there. Why don't we do it? Because we don't believe it. Because it's not a concern. It's not a concern to us. It's a concern to them, because if you're kind of loony, you have your own idea of your threat. But when I say loony, they attack other people like crazy, that community. They attack other people like crazy. They attack me, and the reason they attack me is because I don't talk about them. How can I talk about them? They're hacking Brax me every day. They're hacking me all the time. They're trying to hack me in all aspects of my life. Just a bunch of hackers in there. So if that's what you want, and that's the kind of operating system you want to associate with hackers, yep, Now somebody says, MV says, oh, the leader's no longer in charge. Hell no. He's the only one who writes the source code. Look at all the submissions in the source code. He's still the only one writing to it. So every change made to the OS is made by just one guy. There's not really a community. It's just one guy. So for that reason, it's not, just to give you a comparison, the community at Calyx, if you actually look at the submissions of changes to Calyx, Calyx is actually a community. There are multiple people who contribute to the project and make changes to the project as a community. Very positive. Okay? So, yeah, so I don't need to promote crazies here. If you're gonna, act crazy, then you're not, you don't belong in this group. I don't need to promote you. If you want us to install it, fine, I'll install it for you. I mean, I'll take your money and install it. So if you tell us to install that on your phone, we do. We have installed it many times on phones if you request it, because it's just labor. So, but do I encourage you to do it? Hell no. Okay, we promote only what we. By the way, there's an actual reason for it. The reason I use Calyx OS for Pixels, we use Brax OS for Brax phones, obviously, which is based on, it's open source based on Lunar OS. Brax OS and Lunar OS are actually the same. They're just different graphics. But the entire source code is exactly the same. So Lunar OS, which you can check the source code, it's linked in my BraxMe page, and you can look at the source code on there. It's completely open, and it's identical to Brax OS. So, but on Calyx, and Brax OS, there's more of a usability factor. So we're concerned about the average person. Again, I'm not here to support a bunch of techies with a very difficult to use OS because the OS is so cryptic that you don't know what to do. Well, we don't want that. We're just trying to simplify life, and because it doesn't matter for privacy, you don't have to go overboard. We don't have to go overboard with what we need to do for the privacy stuff. So we want to make sure that the average person can do what they need to do, and solve the privacy problem specifically. This is not about defending against some very incredibly unusual cybersecurity threat. That is not the market. If I'm going to make the OS difficult for you because I got to worry about that, then that's a different market. Then you need a spy device. If you want a spy device, okay, maybe that kind of OS might be better for you. But for the average consumers coming from an iPhone and from standard Android, then I believe just from using it that Calyx OS and Brax OS are much more user-friendly. Another one that I like is EOS. What's the name of the company? I forgot the Murena, or I don't know how you pronounce that. Murena, it's in France. It's EOS. If you're in Europe, you can use EOS if you want to do that. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to buy from me. I'd rather you buy from me to support this channel, but you don't have to. There's other options. EOS is fine. I believe they're selling it. Usually EOS is used with Samsung phones, but you can't get a Samsung phone in the US. It has to be a EU Samsung. And now they've partnered with Fairphone, so that's a option. If you're in the EU, you can use the Fairphone. Otherwise, we have Brax. We don't have Brax phones anymore. We're sold out on that. But we have a ton of. I've been selling a ton of Pixel phones. We have Pixel 6, Pixel 6As. Pixel 5s, Pixel 4As in stock, and they're selling as many as we have been selling Brax phones. And the advantage of the Pixels is they're compatible frequency-wise with everything. So we don't have to worry about, phone service issues because, of missing channels, bands, I mean. That's not an issue because the Pixel phones are supplied with Qualcomm baseband modems, which is USA compatible. The Brax phones come with MediaTek baseband modems, and so they're different, and they operate with different frequencies depending on if you're in the EU or in the US. So there are differences there. So, but I don't have any Brax phones right now. So until we release the next Brax phone, which is going to take a while, we do have a lot of really good Pixel phones, and they're really great. I mean, I like them. They're very nice phones. And they're actually pretty high powered too. So and I'm only carrying the brands that are high end. Are reasonably priced. So the high end 7 Pros are too expensive, and if we have to de-Google them and add to that price, it's gonna match an iPhone, and I don't want a pricing next to the iPhone. So the Pixel 6a, for example, is only priced at $420. For a pretty powerful phone for $420. So not bad. And that's the current year model. That's 2023 model phone. Okay, so that's a good deal. Pixel 6, 2023 model phone. Pixel 5 is 22 model phone, but it's a higher grade than the 6a. So the Pixel 5 is actually a higher phone model than the 6a. Anything with an A is usually a lower model than the last year's flagship. So Pixel 5 was a flagship. So we have a ton of Pixel 5s. So that was the prior year flagship. And the current flagship is the Pixel 7, I guess. Okay. So thank you guys. Thank you for sticking with me here in the last hour and a half. And let's be subversive nerds. Let's understand where we stand. That tech may be good if it's the right kind of tech. Not all tech is good. Okay. So let me see if there's any more questions I can try to understand here. What is Neil asking about? Okay, I don't see. Marina. Yeah. 6A, best budget device for the Google phone. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's I would agree with that. It's not really budget looking though. I mean, it's funny. You compare a 6A to a 6. 6A is supposed to be the bargain one, and the 6 is the fancy one, and they kind of look alike. The 6 is a little larger than the 6A. The 6A is smaller. But I mean, it really looks the same. So I'm not sure exactly what the negative is with the 6A. I mean, it looks pretty nice to me. So yeah, so nowadays the popular models we stock are the Pixel 5s, Pixel 6a, and Pixel 6. If you want to buy your own 7 or 7 Pro, that's fine. You can de-Google it for you, but they're expensive phones. So if you're going to send them to us to de-Google, put insurance on it. We can't de-Google anything that's not on our list. So we can't de-Google a Redmi Note. No. I'm getting sick of phone cameras. Well, I obviously I use real cameras here. I have the expensive Sony phone, Sony cameras. That's what I normally use. So maybe it's time to upgrade. There's a new Sony, so maybe it's time to upgrade and then upgrade my live stream camera here. So yeah, I tend to use real cameras, not well, because I'm a broadcaster, so not phones. What do you think this nationwide alert is? That sounds like a conspiracy theory to me at the moment, so I'm not going to worry about it. People ask me that, and I think it's kind of a conspiracy theory. So we shall see. I don't have any clue that it is not a conspiracy theory. So anyway, thank you for watching, my friends, and thank you for